so we are getting close to twins being due. Running low on podcasts, so I'm going to do a couple solos. That way we have them ready to go. And if you guys have any topics, feel free to send them over to me, Devan at CrossFitCTRL.com. But today I'm going to go over how to improve on movements and skill. And so I'm actually going to break this into a 4-part podcast, so that way I have enough for the next 4 weeks. And you've probably heard me talk about these triangles before. CrossFit loves triangles, and I'm going to go over all 4 of them, and then over the next 4 weeks, as these podcasts come out, I'm going to break them down for you. So the first one is the theoretical hierarchy of athletic development, and that's the 5-layer pyramid that you see us do in the lecture 2 on your onboarding process. It's the base of the pyramid is nutrition, and then you have metabolic conditioning, gymnastics, weightlifting, and then learning and playing new sports. And then from there, I'm going to go over the mechanics, consistency, intensity pyramid. So mechanics, consistency, intensity. From there, I'm going to go over the mobility, strength, and skill pyramid. So mobility, strength, skill. And then I will finally go over isometric, eccentric, and concentric. And so I'm going to deep dive into all of those, and then hopefully by the end of this, you understand how to improve on these movements, how to gain strength, how to improve on your gymnastic skills, and just overall how to become a better human and athlete. So let's dive into the theoretical hierarchy of athletic development. And we'll start at the top, work our way down for this one. If you listen to the podcast I had with Torian a couple weeks ago, he asked about how CrossFit could benefit athletes in sports. And we kind of dove into this pyramid, but I want to dive into it a little bit more because I think it is important to understand why we do this stuff. So at the top of the pyramid, we have learning and playing new sports. And the reason CrossFit has this at the top of the pyramid, like it matters the least out of our athletic development, is because your strength, your mobility, your ability to do certain skills is all going to thrive off of the movements we do in our 1-hour group classes. And then when you actually get into sports, it's sports-specific skills that you're trying to learn. So that's where the neurological pathways come into play: balance, accuracy, coordination, and agility. That's where it's sport-specific movements. And so if you have the strength and you have the mobility, your body's able to produce these like a deep squat or lunges. Those kind of things will pay off in the long run, and it will carry over into your sport, which leads me into the next piece of the pyramid. Right underneath sport is weightlifting. And oftentimes people think of weightlifting as just barbell movements, as either powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting, but weightlifting is any time you add an external object. So I always go over this in the first lecture, but weightlifting is anything external. So dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, and then you can even dive into sandbags, slam balls, medicine balls, a weight vest. If you add a weight vest to a movement, that would be considered weightlifting. So what weightlifting does is it builds off of gymnastics, where you learn how to move your body, and now you learn how to move external objects, which oftentimes is what's happening in sports. And so in the CrossFit pyramid, if you actually read the lecture in the level 1 handbook, they also include throwing inside of the weightlifting category, because most sports do have a throwing piece to it. So like football, baseball, basketball, those all have throwing in them as well. And so what the weightlifting does is gymnastics is below it. You want to learn how to move your body through space and time, and then you can add external objects, which is going to lead to moving your body weight easier. And oftentimes you will be moving weight throughout your day, whether it's carrying in your groceries. I mean, it could be 20 to 30 pounds. A gallon of milk is 8 pounds. So if you're carrying that gallon of milk in, you're doing some form of weightlifting. If you're carrying it up the stairs, that's some form of box step up or a lunge. And so that's why we want to do the weightlifting piece. I'm sure we've all carried furniture in at some point in our life, or had to pick up a toddler that weighs 40 pounds. So you do some form of weightlifting throughout your life, and that's why we have it at the top of that pyramid. Or not the top, but closer to the top of the pyramid. And then below that is gymnastics. And oftentimes people think about gymnastics as what you see in the Olympics, which is rings and the bars and the parallettes. And that is gymnastics, but gymnastics is anything body weight. That's the easiest way for me to break it down for you is anytime you're doing something body weight, that would be considered gymnastics. So sit-ups, anything on the GHD is considered not GHD. So sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, handstand push-ups, muscle-ups, parallel work, planks, pikes, handstand holds. All of those things are considered gymnastics. And I will dive a little bit more into it when I get to that isometric, eccentric, concentric pyramid. But it's really important to be able to support your own body weight for an extended period of time. And so oftentimes when we do, people either love gymnastics and they hate weightlifting, or they love weightlifting and they hate gymnastics. And the reason for that is oftentimes very strong athletes are on the heavier side of body weight, and so they struggle with the isometric pieces of the gymnastics. So planks, even going into body weight movements like pull-ups and push-ups, they struggle with larger volume. But all that's important because your body weight's what you're supporting throughout your life. That's how you're walking from A to B. That's how you're getting yourself up the stairs. That's how you're getting up out of a chair. So you should be able to perform higher volume things with body weight. And I'll be honest, I'm guilty. I was one of those athletes where I started in strongman, and I preferred lifting heavy for shorter sets or shorter periods of time over gymnastics. And my views didn't change until, even when I started CrossFit, I was still considered like on the stronger side of athletes. It wasn't until I took the gymnastics course with Chuck Bennington that my views on gymnastics changed, and I realized why it's so important for my body to be able to support itself. And so I did a lot of work on isometric holds and handstand or hanging from the rings, and then I did a lot of negative stuff, which is the eccentric piece. I'll dive into that later, but gymnastics is very, very important when we're looking at longevity, because what puts people into nursing homes is when they fall and they can't get back up for themselves, or they can't go to the bathroom for themselves. And so those are both gymnastics pieces. And we can weight lift into our 80s, but the gymnastics piece is what's really going to carry us on for longevity. And so going down on the pyramid, we're looking at metabolic conditioning. And so metabolic conditioning is the bulk of what we do in CrossFit. Metabolic conditioning is not just the, it's not just like single modality monostructural cardio. It's when you're mixing and matching things in as many ways as possible. So when we think about metabolic conditioning, you have 3 metabolic pathways. You have your 0 to 10 seconds. That's your phosphocreatine pathway. That's your 1 rep max. That's your 200-meter sprint, 100-meter sprint. That's like your all-out max effort energy pathway. And then from there, you get into your glycolytic, also called anaerobic pathway. And that's your 30 seconds up to like 2 minutes. And so that's our Fran's, Grace, even that these are CrossFit benchmark workouts. That's your 400-meter sprint. That's your 30 reps for time, that kind of stuff. And then from there, you get into your oxidative or aerobic pathway. So oxidative, air, aerobic. And all 3 of those pathways fall into the metabolic conditioning. So you have metabolic pathways. There's 3 different pathways. That's the bulk of what we're looking at in CrossFit, is making those metabolic pathways put out as much power as possible. And you've seen me go over that power equation before, where we can actually map out our workouts and see where we're at on the fitness scale. We want to increase that work capacity across as many times and domains as possible. And so that's the metabolic conditioning piece of it. From there, we get into nutrition. And so why nutrition is the base of the pyramid? Because without good, proper nutrition, your body will not be able to support itself for the output that you're asking for. So without good input, it's not going to produce a good output. And if you are working with Greg right now, him and I have had a couple meetings on what is truly the best thing for new athletes to be working on. So why you should be working with a nutrition coach. For you guys that don't know, Greg has worked with a nutrition coach for 7 years. I've had nutrition coaches. I still meet with people about this stuff because it's hard. Nutrition's hard because you can eat really well for 23 hours a day and then eat like shit, and it goes out the window by just one meal. So what's important is to make sure, even if you have those bad days, just jump back on the next day. And so where is the best place to begin? Greg has a couple of athletes now where they were in a severe calorie deficit, and he raised them by, I want to say, almost double the calories. So he had someone I think was in 1,200 calories or 1,000 calories, and they bumped him up to 1,800. And now they're losing weight like crazy. And so why is that happening? Well, number one is they are getting the proper nutrients for their body to support their output. And so they are performing better in the gym. They are gaining muscle mass. And now their body is able to produce more work. The other reason is, Greg has a perfect analogy for this. If you've ever sat by a bonfire and you put one log on there, the flame's not very big, but you throw on 5 or 6 logs and then all of a sudden the flame is higher. So more fuel, more output. That's an easy way to think about it. Now, where are some good starting points? I truly believe if you have the funds, work with a coach for at least 3 months. Just do it. It's the accountability piece. There's someone there helping you, guide you along the way. They're helping you if you are struggling with something. If you're not quite sure where to be, you can ask them questions. But a really good starting point is, number one, eat your protein goal. And your protein goal is going to be 1 gram per pound of goal body weight within 10% of your current body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 180 pounds, 180 grams of protein. That is number one. You have to hit that every day if you want to see results. Now, some people will argue with that. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to get you results. So 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight a day. From there, your second goal, you can backfill your calories. So your calorie number is going to be, if you're trying to lose weight, 10 times your goal body weight. If you're trying to maintain weight, it's going to be 12 times your goal body weight. And if you're trying to gain weight, it's going to be 15 or 18 times your goal body weight. Times your current body weight. And so all of those numbers times your current body weight. So if you are 200 pounds and you're trying to lose weight, your calorie deficit is going to be 10 times 200. It's going to be 2,000 calories a day. Now your goal is going to be 200 grams of protein a day. And so right there, you're getting 800 calories from your protein. You can backfill the other 1,200 with whatever you want, whether it's more protein, fat, or carbs. And so you can eat 2 cookies if you want. You can eat a salad. You can eat another steak if you want. But number one goal is your protein. Number 2 goal is backfill your calories with whatever you want, but do not go over your calories. I guarantee if you do those 2 things, you are going to see results. But you have to do those 2 things. Okay, you cannot eat 1,200 calories one day and 2,600 the next and call it even. Do those 2 things, and you will absolutely see results. So, breaking down the pyramid again, base of the pyramid is nutrition. Your nutrition input is going to carry your output on the other 4 levels of the pyramid. Above that, you have metabolic conditioning, where you are trying to condition your metabolic pathways to produce as much work as possible. Metabolic pathways are phosphocreatine, anaerobic, aerobic. From there, you have gymnastics. You need to be able to support your body in space. From there, you have weightlifting, adding external objects. And then from there, learning and playing new sports, which will help with building new neurological pathways to do new skills. So if you have any questions on the theoretical hierarchy of athletic development, just shoot me an email, devin@crossfitctrl.com, and I'll be happy to answer them.